Welcome to Making Conversations, a podcast from makers Gemma Millen and Robin Galway.
Today we are making conversations with potter Adam Frew. Hello and welcome to this episode of Making Conversations podcast. This is episode 7 and today myself and Robin are speaking with the amazing Adam Frew.
Hiya, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
So could you talk to us a little bit about your childhood? Did ceramics feature heavily to influence where you are now?
No, not really. Not at all, actually. I came to ceramics sort of very late on, probably the foundation of art college. My mum, actually, she went through the art college and she did ceramics, but she never sort of pushed that on me. She always sort of pushed a sort of a more creative thing growing up. You know, there would always be the art drawer. So, you know, I could go in and I could get things. To be honest, actually, I don't know if I was that interested in art that much growing up. You know, I was good at it in school. You know, I would have been one of the better drawers in the class and stuff. It's just something I could do. Because it was a stronger subject of mine, you know, I just went on to do an A-level in it and then a foundation and then ended up in art college. So, yeah.
So what was in your art drawer that you mentioned? Was it a bunch of materials that you could kind of take out at any point, or?
Yeah, I got a couple of kids, so I've got an art drawer for them as well at home. And it's just bits of scrap card and paints and pencils and all different kinds of creative materials. Yeah, so I think that was definitely an influence on me and my career choice. Yeah, I suppose I'm a creative person. You know, I like doing other creative things apart from making pots, but sort of fell into it and loved the process of it. I loved the idea of working with the clay and working on the wheel, and yeah.
You said your mum was creative as well. Do you come from quite a creative family?
Yes, I do. My sister Leslie, she went to the art college. She did textiles, and then she set up a business after. She did jewellery. And my sister Emma, my older sister, she did art at school. She was very good, but actually chose a different career path. Myself and my wee sister, we both went the art direction.
When was it then that you were first introduced to clay? You said it was more of an educational thing. Was it definitely the pottery wheel that first piqued your interest?
I tried clay at school, absolutely hated it. So I was always into drawing and painting. I suppose school for me, I just drifted through it. I had sort of no idea of what I wanted to do. One of the things I hated in school were careers talks. You know, they'd look at your strengths and then they would try and like work out what your job would be. And I just found that really, you know, depressing. Whenever I went to Castlereagh College after school, then I picked art subjects to do. I did a photography and I did a history of art critical studies, and I did an A-level art. And see, from there on, just everything changed. I just knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I needed to be working in a creative environment. And it wasn't until the end of my foundation that I just was mucking about on the potter's wheel. It would be something to do, not seriously, just mucking about after doing a bit of painting or whatever, then get on the potter's wheel and make a couple of pots. But I just loved the whole process of it. And then I sort of found I can make these vessels and they can be like a canvas, you know, for images and for whatever ideas was going on in my head at the time, put on these pots. So I thought I could marry the two together. And I wasn't really thinking about function back then. It was just about the love of throwing and just seeing this lump of clay emerging into this vessel and then able to then paint on it. It was just, that's what it was about. Then I decided that's what I want to do in art college, is to go and do ceramics.
Was your aesthetic quite similar from, say, you know, foundation through to what you do now, or has there been quite a lot of visual difference between the two?
Yeah, it's always been about the vessel and it's always been about the surface and trying to link the two. But I took a year out of uni. At that stage, when I took a year out, I didn't really think of myself as being a potter. I thought myself as being an artist, and I took a year out and I wrote loads of letters to different potteries, people that I liked. And I got one letter back from this very traditional pottery, which I didn't really think a lot of at the time, made brown pots that I thought at the time functional, boring wood-fired pots. So I went along because it's the only one who got back to me for my year out. So I spent the summer there. And then my tutor, Clive, got me set up with another placement in Finland for the rest of my time. So that would have been like 9-10 months in Finland, 3 months in this place called Winchcombe. And it was there that I learned to fall in love with function and the whole idea of, you know, making a pot and a handcrafted thing that could then be on the table and used. As I grew to love what was going on there, function became a big part of what I was doing. But then function and the decoration and the whole lot, it just comes together.
How did you find being in Finland? Were you based in Helsinki, or did you do quite a bit of traveling while you were there?
I was working. It really felt like a job. I got paid a decent wage, actually, for the little work that I did there, little skills that I had at that time. I had weekends free, but it was actually an island off Finland,
lovely.
a Swedish-speaking island. So it was really buzzing in the summer, but in the winter it was really dead. But I wasn't really bothered. I loved being there. I loved the seasons. I think it was one of the coldest times it had been in a long time. Whenever I was there, it was like minus 30.
Oh my gosh.
So the sea was frozen, and you could drive. There's like ice roads. You could drive your car across it. It's really, really a fascinating experience. Culturally, really, really interesting. You know, I loved it in the summers. Great summers. Good memories of being in Finland.
Did you try any of the local cuisine? A lot of salmiakki and Karelian pies, I think, were.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I did an Erasmus there for 11 months, but in the Russian border in Imatra. And it was fantastic. But yeah, the food was combinations of like licorice and salt.
Licorice. I remember licorice being a big thing there. They like to drink a lot as well. They like, I think it's more like Swedish inspired, the food on this island, because it was Finnish. It's a part of Finland, but it was Swedish speaking. But I think, you know, like meatballs and sort of IKEA food. I wasn't a great cook back then. I'm really into cooking now. I'm into cooking. I'm into the whole idea of using pots, and you know, that's a big part of why I make pots as well. Is the food. But back then, you know, I don't think I could have rustled much up. So food might not have been the focus when I was there. But yeah, it was cool.
So it must have been quite a culture shock, even going not just from Northern Ireland, but then to this island where they're speaking a completely different language as well. But even in terms of the making culture, how was it different there?
Yeah, it felt like a proper job. It was structured, and I was working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And so, you know, I would have had my jobs to do, the jigger jolly and slip casting and a little bit of throwing. But mainly I was production work, making clay, stuff like that, you know, making glazes, all those kinds of things, you know, just all the kind of stuff, all the valuable stuff you need to know if you're going to set up your own studio. So in a way, it was good grounding for me to have those experiences, to learn, you know, and also what it takes to make it, and the hard graft that goes into running a business as well, which maybe I didn't really think about too much when I was there. Yeah, as a young man going there, never been away from home, pretty daunting. That trip flying into Sweden and then trying to get a train up north to get a boat over to the island, it was all a bit like, oh my goodness. But yeah, good experience.
From there, we know that you went on and worked with the incredible Lisa Hammond.
That's right.
Who founded the Adopt a Potter project. What was that like? You worked with her for 2 years, was it?
Brilliant. So 2 years I worked for her. That was maybe a time when I was thinking more about business, you know, and really noticing how she worked, how she sold her pots, the kind of shows she was doing, exhibitions she was in. I was helping along with all those things, so I could really understand, you know, running classes. I taught a class there, you know, preparing for those kinds of things. All round good learning experience working for Lisa, because she's at the top of her game. She's one of the big names in ceramics now. So that was a great place to be and a great place to learn. For me then coming home and setting up my own business.
And what was your degree show like? What kind of work did you finish with coming back from Finland and having that experience? Was that in your second year that you went away to Finland?
Yeah, I came back with a lot more skills too. They were thrown pieces, big pieces. They were quite earthy. My work's all porcelain now, completely different, but you know, they were quite painterly, and sort of I was really into like abstract expressionism back then. Still do love all that kind of stuff, mark making, and I also had drawings on the wall, quite like jazz, and I was sort of had sketches of going to like pubs and stuff and doing drawings, and they were quite loose and quite free, almost very scribbly, taking inspiration from that type of thing, and it's going into my work. And I had some functional pieces as well. Was the colour scheme quite similar as well, or was that something you developed later on? Colour scheme was totally different, yeah, because it was stoneware. My time at Winscombe, the wood-fired, they were kind of very earthy. My work's a lot cleaner now, you know, it's playing with a bit more colour and stuff. So it's changed, but it's got the same feeling to it, yeah. And you've got quite a large scale of work that you do now, like you make quite massive pots. Would it have been to the same size at degree level, or was that something you've kind of learned to tailor as you've gone on? Similar size, sometimes bigger. I don't know. I don't make too many of them. I make quite a lot of functional stuff. Well, it depends what I've got on. I've got a solo show coming up in Contemporary Ceramics in London in a month's time. So I'm sort of like trying to get ready for that. So it's going to be a mix of more of my one-off pieces for that. Yeah, make a range of things, functional things from cups, plates, bowls, teapots, things that I like to use.
And so what prompted then the change to moving to porcelain? Because it's certainly not an easy material to work with. And then obviously going up to the stoneware temperatures as well, it's going to have all of its different problems associated with it as well. But was it just the cleanness of it, or acting as a bit of a blank canvas, that appealed to you in terms of using it then?
Yeah, so working with Lisa, her process was really, really simple. Her stuff's soda fired, so she's not really working with many glazes. It's just coloured slips, which is like a clay painted onto the surface of the pot, and it's once fired. And when you put the soda into the kiln, it reacts with the silica in the clay and forms a glaze. So it's really, really simple and beautiful. I almost went back to where I began. Whenever I was at Castlereagh, I was working on like a white stoneware and drawing onto that. So I just wanted that contrast, the whites against the darker marks. I kind of started just doing it with my functional stuff, porcelain, and then I kept my one-off pieces, which were stoneware, and eventually it just all merged into working with porcelain. The better I got with it and the more I understood with it, the happier I was to let that material take over. And, I just became to love working with it. It does have its little quirks. It's sometimes not easy to work with. It tends to crack on you sometimes in weird places, and you're like scratching your head going, why did I just do that? Or it kind of moves a lot more in the kiln because it's got a higher sort of glass content in it. But I just love it as a material. Once you've been working with it for a while, then you sort of get used to its little quirks.
So you gas fire, when did that start then? Was that something that you investigated in university and then just carried on?
I've been gas firing I've always gas fired. I love firing with gas. I just love being able to be in control of the atmosphere in the kiln, because I think you can get really nice results that way. Yeah, I've been firing gas kilns for 16, 17 years, I'd say. I like them. Yeah, they're simple as well. Like, I wouldn't be big into glazes. I wouldn't be big into I think if you're going to fire with electric, you really need to know you need to have a really good glaze. I'm not saying my glaze is good. I've been working with my glaze, my sort of Selden glaze. Well, it's Selden, but it's got a sort of blue tint to it. It's like a transparent. But I just feel that just works well with my patterns, which are going underneath it. Or sometimes I like to leave places where there's no glaze and it's just the bare porcelain with my pattern.
I have two electric kilns. I've got a little top loader and a front loader. And I remember doing gas firing in university and just thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to have the time to dedicate to staying with this kiln. You have to mark all and turn it up and everything. And it was a gorgeous experience. It was really wonderful. And I loved that, especially because there were huge kilns as well. And you were there with, a group of people. It wasn't just all my work that was in it. It's that same magic that you get with any kiln anyway, where, you're opening it up and you're seeing this. But it was very transformative whenever you're working with gas. Yeah. And I think with people learning now about doing ceramics, that the go-to thing is now to go towards electric, because it seems a lot safer in terms of, what you put in is maybe slightly more guaranteed of what you're going to get, and you don't necessarily have that firing control when you're using an electric kiln compared to a gas, which I think is definitely, it's a whole other art form, really, trying to get it just right for your work.
Yeah.
Are you ever surprised by what comes out of the kiln? Like, because of that level of control, do you pretty much know how it's going to come out? Like, I know ceramics always has that element of surprise generally, but having worked with it for, 17 years or so, is it quite predictable for you?
Yeah, it sort of has to be predictable because I'm trying to sell it. It's a business. But saying that, the way I work, I'm kind of inspired by my last piece. So this sort of unpredictability can sometimes happen at that stage when I'm decorating or trying new things there. But yeah, it's gas, and you do get nice things happen with the glaze, which it's not 100% predictable, and that's a nice thing about it. But you do get nice flashes and things from the flame that are adding another dimension to the piece. Really frustratingly, my big kiln's broken. And I've been trying to get parts for it for like a year, and it's hard to get because I've had it 14 years now, and I just sort of felt like good to get a service. I surely should get it serviced every year. Like, it's ridiculous. It's been 14 years. Oh, hang on, others. Oh no, my wife's just come in with a cup of tea.
Hi.
I thought it was my daughter. She likes to come up sometimes and find out what I'm doing. Just come in.
Hi.
Or look about the studio and see what she can take with her, like a lump of clay, and go out in the garden and mix it with mud or something like that, and then you find like all this mess all over the grass or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I was talking about kiln. The kiln broken down. Yeah, I've got this wee laser kiln. It's another gas kiln. It's like a backup kiln. I'd never fired it. I got it linked up to a bottle of gas, and I'm getting real mixed results out of it. It's overfiring in places, and it's really oxidizing in places. What I mean by oxidizing is, like on a Bunsen burner, where you can turn the little disc thing at the bottom and you can open it up. You close it off as yellow flame, open it up, it's a blue flame.
Yeah.
So what I want when I'm firing my kiln is a really smoky yellow flame, and that draws the oxygen out of the glaze, and that's how I get my blues. It's giving me mixed results, and I'm getting like loads of like oxidized pots out, which sometimes it's nice to get a few of those, but I'm getting some really, really stunning blues out at the same time. Colours that I never got from my other kiln. So that's been really unpredictable. And actually, in a way, I'm sort of enjoying to see what I can get if I can really reduce the kiln, like get real black smoke coming out of it. Really, really bad for the environment stuff. No joke. Then I can get some stunning blues coming out. Yeah.
Is a kiln quite a personal thing? I was convinced, I did a photography A level, and I was convinced that only my camera would give me the same results. My camera was stolen. I got a new camera. It was the exact same. Could not work with it. I don't know whether it was like a temperament thing or whatever. Is it the same with kilns? Like if you got the exact same kiln as the kiln you got 14 years ago, do you feel that it would work exactly the same way? Is that a really silly question?
No, it's not. No. Yeah, it's trying to work out what's going on in there, what the atmosphere is doing in there to get the colours. So it probably just take a bit of playing about with to get the sort of results that you need, but every kiln does behave differently. This wee laser kiln, I don't think it's a great design because, like I said, things are overfiring in certain places and things are underfiring in certain places. So, but that's all about how you build it up as well, how you build the stack of the kiln. You're thinking about how the flame's going to move around the kiln. So I've had to do a lot of playing about with it, raising the level of the floor in the bottom of the kiln to let a bit more draft pull through. There's loads of different things you think about. I love all that stuff though. I love that. I'm really good at packing stuff. I think that's real.
We've seen those pictures on your Instagram that you share. You're very proud of them. They're brilliant.
Yeah, we're going on holiday. I'm going to pack the car. No, don't. I'm going to I can pack this really, really well.
I'm sure you were excellent at Tetris as a kid.
I don't know. Actually, I never really tried it very much. Could have been.
Yeah, a world champion Tetris player. That's what we're missing out on.
I know.
So have you ever had any really massive disasters? Is there any that come to mind whenever you think of, oh God, I don't even want to think of that. That was a dark moment in your making history.
Thankfully, nothing massive. I've had the odd bad firing, but you just get on with it. Do you know what my worst fear is? And I always check my shelves. Actually, I haven't been doing it lately. I must get back into doing that again. I always check my shelves before I put them in the kiln. You know the way you have like a ring? You hit like a cup, and if it's broken, you can hear it's dead. But if you flick it, you can hear a nice ring. I always tap my kiln shelves just to see if I can hear that ring and then put it in. Because say if one of them cracked at the bottom of the kiln and everything just came tumbling down. I'll tell you a disaster I've had. My kiln broke. So as I was firing, one of the burners stopped working and it was glowing red hot. I thought the burner was going to melt. But I was like thinking to myself, I have to keep going with this firing because there's about 8 grand's work in there and I can't afford to lose that. So thankfully, it wasn't a disaster, but it could have been. I was just concerned that I would never reach temperature and lose the work.
Oh gosh.
Thankfully it didn't.
Yeah.
No. So your work has always had a fluidity to the forms. They always seem to capture your energy on the pottery wheel. Recently your surface decoration has become more expressive and spontaneous in your mark making. Could you talk us through the design influences and processes that prompted you to move away from the surface illustrations that you used to do?
Yeah, it's just a time in my life whenever I was trying to work out a direction I needed to go in. At that time, I was just playing about with ideas. It would have been what was going on around in my life. Nothing too deep, but just work life in the studio. So there'd be like pots with drawings of pots on it, pottery wheels, and my bicycle featured on some pots. And I worked in Flowerfield Art Centre, and the Flowerfield building used to feature quite a lot on pots. It's just about my day-to-day goings on, and that was sort of ended up in my pots. And they were quite loose and free, but then I don't know, I just moved on. My forms have actually become slightly tighter. My decorations become, it's always been loose. Yeah, it's just trying to marry those two together. I feel sometimes, if your form's too very loose and your decoration's loose, it's hard to get it to work. But if you keep the form simple, then you can play about more with the decoration. So that's where I'm at the minute. It's just strip things down, trying to keep my forms simple and play about with the surface.
So you were saying you were in Flowerfield. That was for about 12 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, 12 years. I know, it's amazing how time flies by. I still sort of feel I'm only starting out. 14 years on down the line. I suppose I'm always going to be kind of learning. That's why you do it, isn't it? If you felt you reached the point where you think to yourself, that's it, I've made it, you'd sort of give up and do something else, wouldn't you? No, I feel like I've still got lots to learn. I'm still developing and still finding real interest and drive to keep going.
And how did you find your flower fields experience?
Oh, yes. Well, I should have said that at the start. So after I finished with Lisa, there was an opportunity with Craft NI, and they had like a making it scheme. And I was on that for 2 years. I was one of the lucky early ones who got a bit of money to support while they were on the 2-year scheme, and basically meant that I didn't have to go out and get a job. It wasn't a lot of money. I just sort of struggled on through, but I was able to focus 100% on starting my business off. That was a good help. And Flowerfield was one of the host organisations that were part of the scheme. So I was living in London for a couple of years, and I just decided I want to be out of the city. I want to be by the sea. So that's why I went to Flowerfield. And I've stayed in the area and not too far away from Portstewart, living in Akadui. Having said that, we bought a house here 5 years ago with the potential to build a studio, and now it's happened. So, yeah.
And so we know then that from your experience with Flowerfield Arts Centre, you recently done a Kickstarter that tied in with your move to, I don't know how to say it, Akadui.
Akadui. I know.
Akadui.
Whenever I used to live up here, when I used to live in Portstewart, I was driving down the country or something, I used to see a sign, Akadui, I used to think, so, what is that place? Where is that? I have to go and drive in there sometime, but there's no centre to it. You can be driving all around. It's lovely, it's nice spot.
Obviously, buying your house and settling there in that gorgeous scenery and the gorgeous countryside, you wanted to move your business closer to home then. Then you started the Kickstarter. You launched that in 2017.
Yes, it was 2017. Yeah, it probably was about then. Yeah, I mean, I've always dreamed of having my own studio at home. That's the dream. I never really realised that it would happen. Never really thought I'd have my own house. So all these things coming together, it's been amazing. Yeah, so there was this biggish barn on the land in our house, and that's why we bought it, with the potential to build it into a studio. Just thought of going down the crowdfunding route. I was a bit nervous doing it because I sort of would feel a bit embarrassed if nobody supported me. And you'd have to, or if people did support you and you didn't make your target, you have to give all the money back to the people. We had the Kickstarter, it was open for 4 weeks, I think is the time. And I was amazed. We reached our target within a week. We asked for 10 grand, and then it went dead for the next 2 weeks. And then I thought I'd try and push it again just to see if I get a bit more money, because the studio was going to cost a lot more than that. Like, the studio cost quite a bit more than what we got in the Kickstarter. But my goodness me, it was a huge help to building the studio.
And how did you find running that Kickstarter? I've heard it's quite labour intensive. It's not just something you can set up and walk away from, that you have to keep engaging. And what were your giveaways?
Yes, I had a series of rewards. I had like a little bud vase as a start off point. I can't remember how much. It's sort of like around 20 or 30 pounds. And then there was a mug, and it was 40 pounds, and then a bowl. And the opportunity to have, there's another reward would be to have a pottery lesson with 2 people. So there were many rewards, and people then bought into that. You could also put a bit of money into it if you didn't want a reward. I mean, it was great just seeing that money come in, but you have to make the flipping stuff. I find that very hard. Once you've got money in, I like to do a job and then get paid. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That was great to have to receive that. I shouldn't be complaining about those kinds of things. Yeah, my wife, Catherine, she's a glassmaker. She hasn't really been working with glass just because she's a mum now at the minute, and she's loving that and putting her time into that. But she would help me out, and she would have set up that Kickstarter for me, and she would have done a lot of the helping me out with all those kinds of things. Like you said, it's a lot of work in setting it up and responding to people and all that kind of stuff, and she's great that way.
Such a solid commitment as well, to have to fulfill those orders, to getting them out on time and making sure everybody's happy with that, and then happily taking their money and moving on to build your dream. But were there any other challenges that you didn't quite expect going into the Kickstarter that maybe came up? That was it more a timeline thing that was the most challenging aspect of it, of getting it built and then producing the work? How did you actually manage that? Did you make the work first?
I made all the work when I was in Flowerfield, so just trying to think when the build started. Maybe the builds might have started as soon as I got the rewards out to people. It didn't happen straight away, and it was at a time where I was trying to get Christmas stock out to people. Because it would have been done over the Christmas holidays. And then into January is when I finished and got all the stuff out. People think February I started posting all out. So it's trying to keep shops and galleries happy at the same time as trying to make all the stuff. I had help. I had an apprentice at that time. He helped me. That was great. One of the things I didn't consider was some of the places I post to in the world. The postage was wild.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
It's going to be hard enough to ship ceramics anyway. I mean, it doesn't bounce. So, just never mind the weight of it. And oh my gosh, I'm sure. Were you out of pocket for that? Or was that considered in the price?
It wasn't too bad. Some of the smaller things would have made a bit on it, so it kind of like evened out postage-wise that way. Yeah.
And so your apprentice then was Jack McGonigal, was
That's
it,
right,
at the time?
Jack, yeah.
What was that like then, having to train someone to your specifications then? What was that like, sharing those skills?
Yeah, I knew Jack since he was 17, since he was in Limavady, and he asked, can he come and work for me in the summers and stuff? We just had a chat, whenever he sort of progressing, and he actually ended up going to Cardiff University to do his degree, and we sort of had a chat because he would have come back in his holidays and at Christmas time and helped me out and stuff. So I would take him on, and we actually got some funding for Queen's scholarship. We had an interview, we went over for it, and we were successful. So Jack became my apprentice, and that helped pay his wages. I paid half his wage, and the other half was coming from that organisation. So it worked really well.
Yeah, now he's in your space in Flowerfield with Fiona Shannon and working away.
Yeah, he's making some really lovely pots. I have some of his work. He's a great potter.
From whenever you started your Kickstarter, did you have a visual plan, like in drawings, for how the space would look and how it would function? Or was that something that kind of developed as the building progressed?
See, at the same time as doing the Kickstarter, we were working on our house as well. I found that one of the most stressful times of my life. I kind of just won it. As the building was going on, I'd be walking in and going, I want electric points there, there, and there. And just always happened so quick. And I felt like I needed to make decisions in the studio and in the house about things. And I just ended up being, it's a brilliant job. It's a great space. It's got lovely light coming into it, big massive window at the front, which was the roller barn doors. We just put a big window in there and nice skylights, lovely light coming in the studio. Yeah, it's those decisions as the project was going on. I just found it a bit challenging. Don't know if I'm a very good manager. So anyway.
Is there anything you would change? I just recently bought a house, and there are so many things. I made decisions at the time and I was like, yep, that's where I want it. That's definitely what I want. But when you live in the space or use the space, you're like, oh, I really wish that was taller. I wish I'd done that different. I mean, functionally, is it exactly what you wanted, or would there be things that you would have changed if you could go back?
Just looking around me. No, yeah.
Brilliant.
I put a big massive drain down the middle of the studio, thinking like I would every now and then hose it down and squidgy all the water out through the
That's a great idea.
But I've never done that. So
well, you're just not messy enough. Yeah.
Well,
Is that it?
I wouldn't say that. I was thinking about paving out the back. That's my next thing, getting some pavers down out the back and how we table. So when I run classes, people can sit outside when we do have sun, which is not very often, and have a cup of tea or whatever. But there's this big drain there now that I'm thinking about I don't use it, so I'm just going to fill it and put a pavers on top of it. So anyway, there's a big drain down the middle of the studio for absolutely no reason.
At least you have that option.
Yeah.
So you were talking about workshops and teaching. Whenever you had that as an option on Kickstarter, how did that go? Did you wait until the space was completely built, or did you offer those workshops somewhere else?
No, well, some people were eager to and had the time. It happened that they just came to Flowerfield and did the workshop. There's still some people actually still need to get up here and use it. There's maybe one more couple that need to come and do it. But the other ones I just ran in the studio. I'm now set up. I've got 6 wheels here now for running classes. So whereas before I just had the 2.
How do you find teaching? Do you find it very different from your practice, or do you find it's like an extra limb that just fits in nicely with what you do already?
I love teaching. It's totally different. It's nice having people up in the studio and a bit of crack, and people are really enthusiastic. It's different from my everyday potting. It's nice change. It's one of those things, part of my business, that I think is lovely to have or lovely to be able to do. I very much like teaching. And
is it all levels that would join? So as a complete novice. So I've never done ceramics. Well, no, sorry. I tell a lie. I've done one ceramics class with Gemma and she was brilliant. But I'm not a natural thrower. Is it for all skill levels, or would it be, people who maybe do the degree and then want to come and polish up their throwing, or is it quite open? Yeah, so I've got quite a lot of people who come back who've done it before. But I'm open to people who've
not done it before, want to give it a go. And sometimes it's a bit of a mix in the class. I'm okay with that. I have done other things. Like I work with this since I've had the studio. It's given me more opportunities to do teaching. And I had a blind group in, which was interesting. Actually, I did teach them in Flowerfield. That's how they got my contact. They were in touch with Flowerfield and asked, is there a tutor that does ceramics? So I was able to do it. So they were in touch with me. They came out to my studio. It was all okay for them to be in there. You know, they did a wee check just to see if it was like health and safety, you know, all right. I really loved doing that. I just loved watching them make, you know, like they were hand building, but just the kind of things they were able to produce just by feel and touch. There's one lady, she must have been, I think she's nearly 90. She had lost her sight. She said she used to paint and she'd lost her sight over the last 15 years. I just sort of thought that must be so hard to have seen all your life and then not be able to see it. I gave her a go in the wheel. My goodness, her wee face lit up just at the feel of it. And then she was able to actually do it. I got such a buzz from that. I just loved that. I sort of wish I had said to her, you know, come on round any time and have a wee go if you want. I'd love to find out what she's up to. She's a lovely wee lady. Yeah. You know, it's just opportunities like that I really love. It's just nice experiences.
So with your Kickstarter, do you think you would do it again?
That'd be a bit cheeky, wouldn't it? Is it? I don't know. No, love to do it again for something else. See the Kickstarter, I almost felt like it was begging when I first did that, so like not wanting to do it. It's probably Catherine, my wife, sort of pushing me down that route. But it's not really begging because they get their piece. They're buying a piece. It's like an online shop, isn't it? They're buying their piece of work. Yeah, I sort of like think, oh, there's that Adam Frew one going again, like going for another Kickstarter. Honestly, like I don't see why not. Could do it again for something. Yeah.
And so any other people that are maybe thinking of doing their own Kickstarter, do you have any advice that you'd like to give them?
From doing it, I think it's a brilliant thing to do because you get what you need out of it. I got a studio out of it, but also you're building up so many contacts. It's a really good business move. There's so many people around the world that put into my Kickstarter who are now, you know, my contacts now, people who will continue to, it's a new audience. And whenever I did my Kickstarter, actually was, which I think helped me. I was project of the day on Kickstarter.
Wow.
And that just then opened up, like I said, a whole new audience. So I've got those people who follow me now, and that's why I think it's a good thing to do.
And so you've got quite a large following of 18,000 on Instagram. How do you find managing that? We were talking to Stuart Kearns and he said it's almost like a visual diary where he can upload different elements of his practice and life. How do you find you use social media?
Probably don't use it to its full potential. I haven't posted it in quite a few days now. I go through phases and I don't tend to write a lot of stuff. I just sort of put up like work I'm working on. It's like a little visual diary, exactly like Stuart says. I think it's important to keep people in the loop of what's going on. Keeps people interested, you know, and then you have events coming up, then you can like promote them and that. I don't know how the heck I got that many followers. I must have joined it at a stage when they were sort of giving out followers, you know, free.
You're so modest.
I think it's quite hard to get followers now. I think they've done something that, and they want to like make you want to pay for stuff, don't they now? You know, you have to advertise to get probably get followers now and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but it is, see, social media, it's been brilliant for my business. It's been brilliant.
Do you think that it validates all that hard work that you've done before just to get that engagement and to get that audience? Do you feel like you've made it online? Do you feel like you're an influencer? You can strut about and say, I have 18,000 followers. I'm Adam Frew.
No, not at all. No. Sometimes I think to myself, if you look at other potters or whatever, and maybe they haven't got like that many followers, and I sort of think, why have I got that? Why have I got that, and then they don't have that? I don't know. Obviously, I'm very, very happy that there's a lot of people out there that like what I do. I mean, that's brilliant because that's really important for me for my life, you know, for my family, and just making it as a business. There's nothing that I would want more than to be successful. I don't really know. I don't really think about it too much, actually.
It's probably the best way to be then. It hasn't all went to your head. That's you stay very grounded. So what does a typical week look like in your studio? I'm sure from day to day you've got different tasks that go on to, but with a new week, you know, every Monday, do you sit down and you say, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, you've got orders, or do you have a typical week?
The way I work as a potter, there's always things in different stages. Like one day you might be throwing and then you might be wrapping it up to finish later. Yeah, there's always the similar sort of jobs going on. Probably not enough paperwork going on, actually. I should maybe focus more on bookkeeping. But yeah, a typical week could be like I could maybe come in the studio on Monday and sit down at the wheel and throw all day. And then the next day we'd be coming in to finish off that work. And day after that, maybe it'd be thinking about decorating and then leaving things to dry. And then maybe restart that whole thing again, making, finishing, decorating, building up, fill up the shelves, ready for them barring the work.
So you seem like you've got to a place that many can only really dream of getting to. What's next and where do you go from here?
Like, I just keep doing what I'm doing, keep making pots. And with my business, well, I can't travel at the minute, but I like the idea of traveling, exhibiting in different places, like my solo show in Contemporary Ceramics. I'm always trying to reach sort of milestones. And it's a shame that I actually can't go to that exhibition, where I don't think I will. Depends what's going on in the world at that time. But it's like a highlight of my career there. It's just like all these little milestones that you're kind of hoping that'll happen. I worked with a factory in Portugal, and that was a completely different experience to working in the studio, because you're drawing the pots and I was designing a range for them. And that was really cool because you could see how it works in industry. And that's like a different way. I'm happy to learn and happy to try new things. I was even thinking, because my work is heavily decorated, patterns, marks, I could even go into the textiles, and I could go down that route. It's just endless. I like being creative, just like to see where it takes me. I sort of go with the flow. If I think too much about things, I just get stressed out.
And so how did that opportunity come up then for you working in that ceramics factory in Portugal?
It was through a show I did in London, a design fair. I think it was called Tent. I went over with the Crafts Council of Ireland. They took a big stand and I was actually demoing at it. And then I had quite a big selection of my work. And I actually met the head of Heels department store as well then, who turned up in this like lime green shirt hanging out. And I kind of thought to myself, who's this character here? But it ends up he was quite an interesting contact. So I got my work into their shop. But so that was a great place for me to pick up. I've gone off on one, haven't I? I should stick to what you've asked me. But the factory just came about then. I met the guy. He said he looked at my work and he was, in his broken English, said it's easy for you. You can design a range. Basically, I think he wanted me just to design everything I'd made for him. So I sort of sat down. I thought about pots I'd like to see in production. I had to think about the design of a pot as well, because also it'd be coming in out of molds, so certain shapes wouldn't work that well. But they invited me over to Portugal, and I made the pieces out there for the mold makers then to make the molds from. But yeah, it was really a really interesting experience. I really enjoyed being there.
How do you feel about your work being made in a factory setting, having been designed by you but not made by you?
Yeah, I think I just accept it's just totally separate. It's different. It's cool. It's just another, I don't know what, I didn't really thought about it. It's just a different way to produce.
Could you tell us a wee bit more about the exhibition that's coming up?
I had a few solo shows, not that many in my career, so I feel it's a big thing. I need a lot of work for it, and like I said before, my big kiln's not working, but actually parts just arrived the other day. Not everything, but bits and pieces that I can fit on to start to get it going again. So, because I really need to get some bigger pieces out. I'm just playing about with new ideas and trying to just enjoy and it's just nice to be able to have the freedom just to play about with slightly new forms and new patterns, new marks, and just focus purely on that. That's what I'm doing at the minute, just focusing purely on that show.
And when is it?
It's September, 23rd of September. So and I think they want the work, on the 9th, which isn't long. It's only like a month away. So I'm ready to get going with trying to get things made for it. But yeah, no, I'm excited about it. If I can't be there, it's still good sort of promotion and that type of thing.
So another project that you were a part of was the plate date, working with local chefs and local restaurants. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was really good fun. As I said, that's an idea for my wife again. She's like, she kind of had this idea that, we could do this thing and for Instagram or social media, me and her would go out for a date, but we bring my plates with me and go and ask the chef, do you mind serving our dinner on these plates, just to get photographs of? And it's like homework, because you're, trying to see how it functions when it's reached its potential of having the food on the plates, but it's not really. But it's like, want to have nice dinner and an excuse. So we tried a couple of places up on the north coast, and just asked the chef, and didn't know how they would take it, but they're all like really cool about it. Like, oh yeah, definitely, that's cool. So I did it in a few places, and then I met a guy who's a chef, Paul. He's a friend of mine now. He owns a couple of restaurants just outside Belfast. And I met him at a show, and he started talking pots to me, and then I found out he's a chef, and I was like, I know I'll talk about pots, let's talk about your restaurants, because I'm more interested about that. But he had actually studied ceramics, so it was always he always I think, for his business, the idea of using handmade pots would be amazing for him. He came and did one of my courses, and we got chatting again, and then he saw the plate date, thought it was a brilliant idea, and we decided to do a plate date down in one of his restaurants. It's like 30 people, ticketed events, 5-course meal, wine with each course. And do you know, it felt like a bit more like a wedding or something like that, because it kind of felt like I had to go around at all the tables and sort of say to people, "Hi, I'm Adam Frew. Hope you enjoy your meal and the potter," or whatever, you know. It was really, really cool. It's a really, really fun thing to do. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. It's part of my business that I really love. And with Paul, I stock his restaurants with plates. Some plates, you know, he started making his own for his restaurants, which is, he's making some really, really lovely stuff. It's a place called Billy Andy's and Sleepy Hollow. Don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've been to Sleepy Hollow in Newton Abbey. They are so good.
Yeah. Sometimes I turn up just with a plate in my hand to go down and just to see what. I said, "Paul, what would look good in that? You know, could you serve something like that?" Never asked for money off me, you know. So what I do now is I just give them the plate at the end of the food. Say, "There you are. You can have that for your restaurant."
Fantastic.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so that's how it came about, and maybe do another one of those because it was good. Business wise, you know, I didn't sell too many plates that night. It was a lot of work, but it was good fun.
It's an incredible way to almost have an exhibition. You know, that's such an interactive way to use your work. It just sounds amazing.
It's because, you know, you're making functional items. They're going into an exhibition, and they're sort of they're only halfway there. So they've reached their potential while in the restaurant when the food actually goes on them, and that's how they're meant to be used, not stuck up on the shelf. You know, they're meant to be being used every day.
And I'm a big fan of Catherine's. I love her work. It's just gorgeous. How do you find having such a creative partnership and also having a young family as well and managing all of that?
Yeah, it's great because Catherine understands my work, and you know, you're both makers yourselves. It's sometimes you have to work funny hours just to get things done for things, you know, and she understands that, so it's good. And I'm happy that Catherine is happy being a mother at the minute. She's not missing the glass too much. She's finding other ways to be creative. She's loving gardening at the minute. She's out there making veg patches in her wee greenhouse, and that's her obsession at the minute. And having young kids, do you know what? It's lovely being at home. So I can pop down for lunch and I can see my kids, you know, hang out, and it's just it's just a great sort of scenario, really.
Have you found being a parent has changed how you work or your practice in any way?
Yeah, I try not to work weekends and stuff. Need to manage my time better. You can't get distracted, like you're in the middle of making pots and then you're on the computer drifted off somewhere. You're meant to be doing emails or something like that. You know, I just try to be a bit more strict with my time. Just trying to remember what's important in life. You know, it's not all about work. You know, it's about my family. Yeah.
And are your kids showing any interest in being early potters?
I haven't got them on the wheel yet, because I know if I get them on the wheel, that's what's
never get them off.
That's what my wee girl's called Frances. That's what she's going to be doing. She's going to come up my studio going, "Daddy, I want to go on the wheel." But she comes up and she makes things with clay. She rolls them out, and she was making wee butterflies, and she's painting them. So she's quite. All kids are creative, you know, but she's creative. And
a little apprentice there that you're going to train up, is it, to work in the pottery?
Yeah.
Where would you say the majority of your income comes from? Would it be from workshops, commissions, wholesale? Do you get funding?
Yeah, wholesale, workshops, and online sales. And lockdown has been really interesting because it's all been online and it's been really quite good. So it's trying to think how you balance that, doing the wholesale. And it's just, whenever I started, I did everything. You know, if anyone asked, because you didn't know, it's all about learning what to say yes to and what to say no to. But at the start, it's all about saying yes to everything, and you can go down so many avenues which are a waste of time. But so I'd say this lockdown has been interesting, that my work has been so popular online and gone around the world. So it just opens up that market. It's a huge market. Previous to that, you know, it's been online and it's been wholesale orders and it's been the workshops. Definitely since I started doing. I don't do lots of workshops, you know, I only do 4 a year. So it just helps the cash flow. Yeah.
Do you have a preferred way of selling your work? Because obviously whenever people buy craft, they're buying into you as a person. Do you like having that, you know, face-to-face with connection with your customers, or are you happy to have a gallery sell your work? Yeah. Do you like to know where your exhibition pieces go, or is that just, it's more of a business?
Sometimes people email me and they email me a picture of a really old pot they have in their house, and I kind of look at it and go, "My goodness, you know, that's awful." Or I think, "Oh wow, I remember that pot. Oh, that's so nice to see. It brings back memories. It's nice to know where that is." But I also like meeting customers. You know, and I do shows and go on the exhibitions. That feedback's lovely, isn't it? I'm sure you know yourselves. And that's something that I haven't been able to do in the while. I was meant to do a show in London there just before lockdown. I'm sort of glad I got cancelled because it was right at the start. And that's a time whenever you meet people and talk about your work and people seem interested. I was going to say one of the best things about being a potter for me is opening the kiln, and the next thing is selling it, because I get a good buzz from that, because people are buying it because they see something else in it and they love it. That's the buzz. That's why I do it. One of the reasons why I do it is selling it and people enjoying it. That's for me. So yeah, meeting customers is really can be really lovely. But I don't mind selling things online as well.
In your beautiful new studio, what would be your favourite piece of equipment, like desert island kind of situation? What is your favourite tool to use?
I don't know. Desert island.
I suppose if you're on a desert island, you're maybe not going to be making ceramics. Isn't really going to be your preferred way to put the time in. But
I'll probably take like a woodwork chisel with me or something like that to carve something out of a piece of wood, build myself But
I was just thinking, because you're so painterly with how you glaze, just watching the videos even on Instagram of how you paint on and that process, it seems almost that you're half painter, half potter. So which kind of element do you think is more enjoyable for you, or like your favourite process in the studio?
Do you know what I hate doing? And I was doing it this morning before I was talking to you. Waxing out before you glaze. It's just so boring. Yeah. The thing about ceramics is, and for me, I'm a bit of a geek for processes. The thing why I love ceramics is the process. You start off with a lump of clay, and you put your hands on it, and it turns into something, and then you let that dry. You come back to it the next day, and then you turn it, and it turns into something else, and then it's ready for decorating, and then you have to glaze it. Glazing, I wouldn't be too excited about glazing. It can be creative, when you talk about me, when I'm pouring the glaze on randomly and splashing bits of this here and there. But yeah, that process I enjoy much is opening the kiln. Open the door of the kiln. That's what I like. Yeah.
So I was hoping you were going to say frog tape, because you seem to use. It's lovely how you wrap it up. I think there should be a promo of some sort.
That's my favourite tool. That's what I take to the desert island.
Multifunctional. You could stick some wraps together.
Yeah.
Oh, is it electrical tape?
Electrical tape. It's the only thing that sticks. Yeah. For that.
What advice would you give to anybody who is just at the beginning of their making journey?
Yeah, stick at it. It's hard graft, because the way I started was because I do an apprenticeship. The way I started was I had a 2-year apprenticeship. I learned so much there. I learned about what shows to go and do, what ceramic shows to be doing. So whenever I started my business up in Flowerfield, I was applying for those shows and making pots for them and going along and trying to sell them, doing retail fairs and wholesale fairs and building up, and galleries can come and meet you there and find you there, and traveling. I didn't just stick in Northern Ireland. I went across the water. Yeah, just to stick at it. It's just go and visit a show that you think might be good, and ask people, what's that like for you? If you haven't, if there's no other way to do it, it's good to go and check these things out. See what help there is from organisations like Craft NI and the Crafts Council of Ireland and stuff, because they've all been good help, major helps in starting out. And funding as well. It's looking out for funding. There's support for individual artists in the Crafts Council, and there's lots of things that will help support young makers going out. And it takes time. It'll not happen. It just takes time. I've been at it I'm in business 14 years now, and maybe only in the last sort of 5-6 years it's starting to work. So, well, that's a bit depressing, isn't it? Well, I'm a bit of a slow coach. It's just sticking at it. Some people are well, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm not really a businessman, but maybe in a way I am. I don't really, yeah. People are probably better at business than I am, and they can succeed a lot quicker.
Are you not inundated with people getting in touch with you, asking you for things, asking to come and work for you? Do you get a lot of that?
Yeah, I do get people. Yeah, I was meant to be having a Polish girl come over this summer, but obviously that's not going to happen. I do get people wondering if can take them on and stuff, and yeah, I do get quite a lot of that.
Is that quite a big time investment for you, or is that an element that you kind of enjoy?
It's hard. It's really hard to get somebody good. It's quite a lot of skill involved in what I do. It's hard to get the right person. I find it quite challenging. Yeah, I had someone working for me just before lockdown, a girl, and I've known her for a while, so she can do quite a few different things for me. It's nice having somebody else about as well. In the future, I think I'd like to try and think about that again, as getting somebody on. Yeah, taking somebody on, but at the minute I'm happy enough just managing things myself. Yeah.
Would you find it isolating? I know that some makers would find it a bit of an isolating thing that they do, because whether they've maybe come from a university setting like yourself where you're around all of these people and then suddenly it's just you seem to have a fantastic support from your wife, Catherine, your young family as well. That must be really nice to have. But would you say it's isolating?
That's why I like doing the classes. That's why I like getting out to shows, exhibitions, and doing wee projects like plate date and stuff. I need those things in my life and my business. I was just in the studio all the time, just making all the time. I need other things.
Or would you find it a bit better working by yourself? Would it be too distracting to have a couple of other potters in the same setting, or is it better for you to focus with it just being yourself making?
I do like the focus. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'd feel it if I had other people around me. I'd feel I have to stop and chat to them every now and then, but I actually do like just getting my head down and getting the work done. So it works well for me. I don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy with the way things are. It works well.
And so you seem like a very busy person, obviously, with all the elements of your business and family that you have. But do you do anything in your spare time that you really enjoy that's maybe completely different or that ties into your practice?
I like doing creative things. I really love woodwork. I built all the tables and stuff, benches and all in the studio. And my house is an ongoing project. So I love getting in. I'm making tiles for the bathroom, making tiles for the fireplace. It's all work, isn't it? I find it hard to sort of say, no, I just like to lie around and chill out. But I like doing things. I like keeping myself busy. Yeah, I like just being creative, even if it's just getting out and about and looking at things, and get out on the bike or something like that, and just going camping with the family soon, which would be interesting because the kids haven't been camping before, so I wonder how that's all going to work. So might not feel like a holiday, might feel like, I do like to do other things apart from make pots, but it seems to be dominating my life at the minute, just with all the things that I've got going on. And I kind of sometimes, actually, to be honest, I feel guilty if I'm not working. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to slow down. It's hard to stop, I sort of find. I think it's a real skill if you're able to slow down, switch off. Yeah, it's hard to switch off.
Could you describe your tiles? I wonder what the famous Adam Frew would make for himself as a guilty pleasure tile.
There's... I'm just mucking about with different patterns on it. Sometimes less is more with a tile, because it can be quite a lot. If it's, that's one thing about my decoration. It's hard to know when to stop. You can overdo it so many times. I don't have any examples of that. It's just some are just like wee blue stripes with a little drawn line. That was my bathroom tile. And then when my tile around the fireplace is like a vintage design I did years ago. It's like a painted green pattern that has white squares going through it, and then it's got lines drawn through it. It looks sort of 60s. And then I'm just going to have some dark celadon tiles just on the outside of the fireplace.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nice.
A proper grand design then. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
And so what was the last piece of locally made craft that you purchased, either for yourself or as a gift?
Yeah, I quite often swap with people. I like doing swaps, so then you're but actually my friend, Northern Irish maker, I'm sure you're wanting to hear about, I got it from my friend Peter Montgomery, has recently got off to Austria with his girlfriend, and he's going to start up hopefully making pots there. But I said to him before he left, because we've been wanting to get him his pots for a while, love to get some pots off you. I like your mugs, bowls and stuff. And I just randomly in the post about a week ago, a box turned up with a selection of pots in it. I didn't even buy them. He just sent it to me. And they're lovely. So that's one guy. Recent wasn't a purchase, but it was a recent acquiring of work. Pots.
Lovely. So I'm sure your home is coming down as a very creative space then, with all of these lovely pots and swaps and tiles and
I have my seconds end up in the cupboard at home, and then I have a lot of things which I've traded with people or bought. So I like buying pots, for use. Yeah.
Do you have a coveted piece that you have? Do you have a Lucy Ree?
No, right. What should I go for? I don't know. Yeah. I've got some Sven Bear. I've got a real mix, some sort of slipware pieces, totally different to my work actually. Some wood-fired pieces. Yeah, and they're probably all going to get smashed over time and I do use them, and I've got kids. Do you know what? So what? I just buy other things. No, I'm not. I don't want to be like have anything that's too precious or think of anything that's too precious. It's just only a lump of muck anyway, isn't it? Far lump of muck.
I have a gorgeous little creamer of yours that was gifted to me from Robin.
Oh, thank you, Robin.
Yeah. And my son uses it whenever we're baking to crack the eggs in, because he is obsessed with cracking eggs. Like, he is mad for it. So he gets the little egg basket and he's like, crack eggs. So he knows to get the Adam Frew little creamer out of the cupboard. And it's got a wee chip on it because he was very enthusiastic one time of dumping the eggs into the bowl. And I was like, I have to throw out the whole mix now because there's a chip. He still uses it. That's his egg pouring cup. So he's a big fan. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear you using it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I'm not a fan of people, buying stuff and not using it. If it has a function, it's getting used.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Whenever you are looking to collect ceramics, what is it that you really like from the ceramics that you buy? Is it the story? Is it the person? Is it how it feels in your hand? Is it the glazes? What is your favorite element?
It just has to look good, has to feel good, has to be a good design in my eyes. And yeah, my taste has changed over the years. Went from like when I first started ceramics to loving nearly everything about ceramics to a bit of a pottery snob.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
You're my go-to for most of my presents. I have a lot of ceramic friends, so it always goes down well whenever I bring an Adam Frew over.
Brilliant.
If you were handed £1 million or like a blank check, what would you do?
This could be inspiration for your next Kickstarter.
I'd have maybe a pottery studio in the Mediterranean or something like that.
Ooh.
Wise.
I don't know, just off the cuff. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
nice,
that sounds nice. That sounds like you've thought of that before, actually.
Yeah,
I was ready to go.
That's more my climate. I think that's more my climate, than all this wet and cold.
Oh gosh, yeah. The weather's been horrific lately, but
hasn't it? Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch with you or find out more information about you, where can they go? How can they get in touch?
Just through my website, www.adamfrew.com, and there's a link there to an email. So get in touch through my email. Not sure if I have my mobile number right.
No,
that's totally fine. Don't worry.
Sorry, messing. It's just through that. Also, my social media. Go and check me out on my Instagram and Facebook, and that's another way to get in touch with people. A lot of people get in touch that way too. It's very difficult. You have all these different things, isn't it? You can get messages through. It's hard to sort of keep on top of all of it. Probably email's probably best.
Thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been
thank you. Yeah.
Really wonderful.
True for us.
No, thanks very much. I very much enjoyed talking to you. So thank you. That was lovely.
Thank you so much, Adam, for a great conversation. It was a pleasure to speak with you about your making journey. Thank you also to the Arts Council of Northern Ireland, who have funded our second series as part of their Artist Emergency Programme. Coming next, we speak with master woodmaker David Cloosley, whose episode we can't wait to share on Thursday the 24th of September 2020.